just go scratch? Did I scratch all 3 mics that are going through my thing? Are they going through your thing? For sure. Right in the beginning, it's just like you want to haul ass.
It's the hardest trick because you like want to play harder but not faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Easy. Yeah.
Wait,
Let me.
what happened?
It's just off my head. I'm trying to get that fill right because I want that fill to be a specific thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like thinking about it.
Shuteye Unison began as us still having live performance obligations for the Rum Diary, and Daniel and I wanting to make good on them. So during that time, which was about 1.5 years ago, Joe had moved off to New York, and Skylar got busy doing other things, and we enlisted a good friend of ours, Jake, who oddly enough grew up in this very close to the same small town that we grew up in. And Jake kind of sat in, learned a bunch of Rum Diary songs, and said, all right, let's go play them live. Thankfully, he'd kind of been a fan and already knew the feel and so forth, so he really got into the groove quite easily. So fast forward about 1 year, we found ourselves with this kind of handful of songs that we couldn't deny, and we felt like, wow, this is something different than what we were all used to doing. Parallel to all this, I was doing Mi Juanito with my wife Mimi, and Daniel's playing in Built for the Sea, and Jake's playing with Daniel's brother actually in the action design. But we were all still kind of getting together, and it just made sense for us to, hey, let's record this and let's just release this as a new project called Shuteye Unison.
So this is the first time that we had access to really incredible equipment while we were recording. That's the biggest difference between this album and everything else John and I have recorded. We did a lot of the Rum Diary stuff in my house with pretty subpar mics and equipment. And so we recorded in San Francisco at a place called Closer Studios, and they had crazy old Neumann mics and all these mic pre's. We definitely experimented with miking situations. Before, I'd always done this really standard kind of setup on drum mics, and Jake and I pretty much moved everything around until it sounded like we wanted. Once we had the basic tracks, we took them back to my house, and since, I've collected a few nice microphones and we added everything there. So we took the tracks that we had recorded to San Diego to mix with Paul Jenkins. He runs Stereo Disguise Recording Lab. He's also in Black Harp Session and 3 Minute Pilot, which are a couple of our favorite bands. So it's nice to work with someone who, kind of knows where we're coming from. He took parts of songs and completely reworked them, and they sounded completely different from the tracks that we had brought in. Let's see, on the beginning of track 6, that intro pretty much was just kind of a basic delayed guitar swell for a couple minutes and vocals stuck in. And that just didn't, it wasn't good enough for Paul. So he spent an hour maybe just like reworking that part, and it definitely sounds a lot more interesting now.
I think people will probably find it satisfying if they were a Rum Diary fan, but then also find it kind of neat to hear something new, a bit heavier, kind of a bit more polished. Another difference in the sound is that Daniel and I really wanted to have 2 guitars, and actually Jake did too. We just felt that it was needed in the sound. It was something that we never got to experience in previous bands and so forth. So what we ended up doing is recording this batch of songs and then enlisting a really good friend of ours, John Latimer, who plays in the Aimless Never Miss. Obviously, we had a natural connection with Johnny because he's from Katati. And what he came in and did was just listen to the songs, kind of rough mixes, and then just write guitar over the majority of them. And when we listened back to the mixes with what Johnny had written, it just really blew us all away, and we thought, wow, this is it. This is really the icing on the cake for the new album.
Jim.
Oh. How we doing? First time in the studio? Let me see this thing.
Donald T. Bacon.
Donald T. What?
Bacon.
Donald T. Bacon? Why'd you want to play with legendary members of the Rum Diary?
Great question.
Because we came up together playing music, and it was if there's a rapport there that you don't find in Los Angeles, meeting people through Craigslist.
Skylar Vegas is a legend in the indie rock scene as a premier drummer and an extraordinary.
What makes you think you can even compare to that guy?
Yeah.
There's no way I can compare with Skylar, man. Yeah. I can't even answer that question. How can I compare to Skylar? It's not gonna happen. I could never drink that much beer in my lifetime. My favorite part on the record is the vibraphone. That thing sounded amazing. Symphonies, vibraphone. We played this crazy Indian stringed instrument that we bowed. That got in the intro of one of the songs, and that's great. Yeah, just having all night to sit around and have fun toys to play with. I'm getting the.
This album is released on Parks and Records, which is great for us because not only is it self-recorded, but it's self-released. Parks and Records is a label that my wife and I started. The first release that we did was the Car Crash Lander CD, which is Corey from Desert City Soundtrack. And what we're really hoping to do is not only just release the music that I'm recording or our friends is recording, but to really build a kind of a traditional indie label, which is not just about, putting out the next big indie sound or whatnot, but to really build a community of bands and fans that are passionate about the music, but then are also passionate about preserving the national forests and parks of our country. And are we still rolling? That's little Charlie River right there.